Montana Territory, winter 1883. The storm rolled in like a punishment from God, howling winds, bitter snow slicing across the plains, and clouds so dark they turned noon to dusk. Coulter Briggs tugged his duster tighter around his frame, his horse snorting steam into the freezing air. Behind him, the skeletal trees of the Bitterroot Ridge twisted in agony under the wind's assault. Ahead, a narrow trail curved toward the lonely cabin he called home. One room, one hearth, and no company, but silence. He'd been gone 3 days, trapping along the ridge, looking to set fresh lines before the next freeze locked the land in ice. His horse limped slightly, cut on a shale ridge. Supplies were low. He looked forward to a fire, maybe the last jar of beans, and a shot of whiskey he'd been saving since autumn. He didn't expect company. But as he rounded the bend and the cabin came into view, dark, still, the roof burdened under fresh snow, he noticed something off. Movement. A shape huddled near the door, cloaked and small. Another beside it, taller. He slowed his horse. Snow blew sideways, veiling the figures in ghostly blur. As he drew closer, the forms came clear. A woman, holding a child. They didn't move. The woman had her arms wrapped tightly around the girl, shielding her from the cold. Her clothes were worn, ill-fitted for the weather. The child couldn't be more than 7. Her cheeks were red, lashes iced. The woman looked up, her eyes locking with his, wide, cautious, exhausted. Coulter dismounted slowly. His boots sank deep into snow, one hand near the butt of his revolver. He said nothing. The woman cleared her throat. "Please, just a night. She's cold. We won't trouble you." Coulter stared at them for a long moment, then turned, opened the cabin door, and gestured inside. They entered without a word. Inside, the air was colder than the grave. He dropped his pack, went to the hearth, and knelt to coax a flame from the coals buried in ash. Sparks leapt. Soon the fire grew, flickering light over pine walls and casting long shadows. The woman crouched near it, rubbing the child's hands. "Say thank you, May." "Thank you," the girl whispered. Coulter didn't answer. He stood, fetched a blanket from the cot, handed it to the woman. She draped it around her daughter, then herself. "I'm Eliza," she said. "This is May." He nodded once. "Coulter?" She looked around the room, sparse. 1 table, 2 chairs, a cot, a lantern, a rifle on the wall. No pictures, no softness, just the essentials. She seemed to understand something without it being said. "I know we're intruding," she said gently, "but we had no place else to go." He watched her, unspeaking. Outside, the storm screamed. May's eyes flicked to the rifle. "You a soldier?" "No," Coulter said after a pause. "Was." "Like my papa?" she asked. Eliza's hand closed gently around the girl's wrist. "May." The girl looked down, instantly quiet. The silence stretched. Coulter poured water into a tin pot, set it on the fire, and turned to hang his coat. As he did, he caught the edge of something under Eliza's sleeve. A bruise. Faint, but unmistakable, yellow turning to green. She saw him notice, pulled the sleeve down. He didn't ask. That night passed with few words. Coulter gave them the cot, rolled his blanket out by the hearth. The fire cracked and hissed as wind battered the walls. May slept fitfully. Eliza barely at all. Coulter lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to their breathing. Memories clawed at the edges of his mind. A woman's laugh, a baby's cry, a grave dug by frozen hands, He pushed it away. At dawn he rose and stepped outside. The storm had passed. The snow gleamed untouched, except for a set of tracks winding away from the woods. Faint, recent, not animal. He squinted. A rider had passed near the cabin. Inside, Eliza was boiling oats with a steady hand. May sat on the floor, sketching in the ash with a stick. "You see someone pass through here?" Coulter asked quietly. Eliza shook her head. "No. Why?" "Tracks," he said. "One horse. Came close, then turned back." Eliza's face remained still, but her knuckles whitened on the spoon. Coulter crouched, watching May draw a flower in the soot. "She's got a good hand," he said. "She likes to draw trees," Eliza replied. "Things that grow." He nodded. After breakfast, Coulter saddled his horse and rode out to the trail, following the tracks a mile before losing them at the frozen creek. Whoever it was knew how to move quiet. When he returned, Eliza was outside gathering kindling. She looked up, snow dusting her shoulders. "You said you were heading south?" he asked. She hesitated. "I did." "Changed your mind?" "I don't know what I've changed anymore." He watched her closely. She had the look of someone worn down, not just from the cold or the travel, but from something deeper, the kind of wear that comes from running too long. "I don't ask many questions," he said. "I've noticed. But you should know. Someone's looking for you." She dropped the kindling. A log rolled from her hands into the snow. Coulter stepped forward, quiet. "I won't force you to tell me. But if I'm putting myself in it, I'd like to know what I'm standing in." She stared at the snow a long time, then looked up, eyes rimmed red. "My husband, Malcolm Kane, owned half of Coyote Valley. Cattle, rail land, bribes enough to own the sheriff too. He was not kind. Not to me. Not to her." Coulter said nothing. "I tried to leave before," she continued, 3 times. "He'd always find us, drag us back." Her voice cracked. "Last time he had a knife. He said next time it'd be May. So I waited. And when he passed out drunk with it still on his belt," her voice faded into the crackling fire inside the cabin. Wind rustled the pines. Her hands trembled. "He's dead," she whispered. "They'll say I murdered him. They won't say what he did to us. They never do." Coulter looked away. "There's a bounty on my head now," she added, more to herself than to him. "Dead or alive? I heard it in the last town we passed." He nodded. "Red Hollow's 2 days east. That's where the law lives." Her laugh was bitter. Law. She spat the word like venom. Coulter turned and stared at the horizon. "You going to turn us in?" she asked. "No." Eliza blinked. "Why?" Coulter rubbed the back of his neck. "I seen men with power crush those without. I seen what it does to people. You don't look like a killer." She looked down. "I didn't look like a wife either." That night he kept watch with his rifle across his knees. Eliza stayed close to May. No words were exchanged. None were needed. The third morning the sound of hooves broke the dawn stillness. Fast, confident. Coulter was already outside, rifle in hand. A rider approached from the tree line, rough beard, long coat, cold eyes. He reined in. "You Briggs?" the man asked, voice like gravel. Coulter nodded. "Name's Salter. Looking for a woman. Dark hair, about so tall. Traveling with a kid. Dangerous? You seen 'em?" Coulter's eyes didn't flinch. "Ain't seen anyone but snow." Salter studied him. "Funny. Saw tracks leading near your cabin. Wolves been thick." He flicked his reins and turned. As he rode off, he looked back once, eyes narrowing. Inside the cabin, Eliza stood frozen at the window. "They'll be back," she whispered. Coulter nodded. "Then we best not be here when they do." For the first time, something changed in her expression. Hope flickered, fragile and small. She looked at May, who still slept peacefully. "We'll leave at dusk," Coulter said. "I know the trails, ones that don't take kindly to company." She stepped closer. "You don't have to do this." He looked her in the eyes. "Ain't about what?" "I have to do." That night, under a moonless sky, they slipped into the forest, footprints swallowed quickly by falling snow. Behind them, the cabin stood silent, fire out, door swinging gently in the wind. The storm had passed, but the real danger was only beginning. And Coulter Briggs had just chosen a side. The forest swallowed them whole. Twisted pine and skeletal aspen formed a dark cathedral above Coulter, Eliza, and May as they trudged westward, snow crunching beneath their feet, every breath fogging the freezing air. The girl clung to her mother's hand, silent but alert, her wide eyes drinking in the trees as if they might suddenly come alive and speak. Coulter moved ahead, rifle slung low, eyes scanning with practiced caution. He knew the land. He knew what it gave, and what it took. Behind them, smoke from Coulter's abandoned chimney curled faintly into the morning sky. It wouldn't take long for Salter or one of his men to realize they'd run. And when they did, they'd come fast, hard, and hungry for the reward. The terrain turned unforgiving. Eliza stumbled often, her boots soaked through. She never complained, not once. Coulter noticed this. He also noticed the way she lifted May each time her legs faltered, never hesitating, never asking for help. He'd seen men in battle with less grit. By dusk, they reached the edge of the Wolfjaw Narrows, a narrow passage between two granite cliffs, the trail carved by meltwater centuries ago. Dangerous in daylight, fatal at night. "We make camp here," Coulter said, pointing to a hollow beneath an overhang. He gathered dead branches quickly, expertly, using bark and dry moss to coax a flame from flint. The fire crackled low, warming their hands but casting little light. Stealth was their only safety. Eliza sat close to May, her arms wrapped tight around the girl. Coulter passed them both jerky from his pack. They ate in silence. Finally, Eliza spoke. "Back at the cabin, you said you've seen men like Malcolm before. What did you mean?" Coulter leaned back, eyes fixed on the fire. The wind moaned through the cliffs behind them. "I was a soldier, rode with the 4th Texas Cavalry. After the war, I scouted for a while, tracked men who didn't want to be found. Some deserved it, some didn't. I started seeing that justice didn't look the same for everyone." "You left?" "Didn't see the point in hunting ghosts for other men." She nodded slowly. "Then why help me? This ain't your fight." He hesitated. "Might be the first thing that feels right in a long time." Eliza looked away, lips pressed thin. "There were times I thought no one would ever believe me. That Malcolm could do all the things he did and still wear that damn Sunday smile. Money buys saints. Or the illusion of one." Coulter said nothing. He didn't need to. The silence between them had grown comfortable, honest. May had fallen asleep against her mother's side, clutching a leather pouch Coulter had given her for collecting pine cones. A small thing, but she held it like treasure. As the fire dwindled, Coulter stood and moved to the edge of the cliff trail, listening. Snow fell in thin, drifting flakes, almost soundless. Then, movement. A rustle, barely audible. He raised his rifle. "Someone's out there." Eliza rose, eyes wide, pulling May behind her. A shadow moved near the trees, then another. Coulter stepped forward, finger brushing the trigger, until a shape emerged from the snow-blurred dark. A man, tall and lean, face painted in ash and ochre, animal skins wrapped around his shoulders, in his left hand a bow, in his right a rabbit, freshly killed. Coulter lowered his rifle. "Toma." The figure nodded once. Eliza squinted through the gloom. "You know him?" Coulter stepped aside. "We've crossed trails, years back. He saved my life. Twice." Toma approached the fire, crouched silently, and set the rabbit down. His eyes, dark and unreadable, scanned Eliza and May with no judgment, only calculation. Then, without a word, he turned and vanished into the trees. May leaned toward Coulter. "Was that a ghost?" Coulter smiled faintly. "No, but he walks like one." Toma returned within the hour, silent as snowfall, and began skinning the rabbit with a flint knife. He moved with deliberate, fluid motions. He never spoke unless needed. Coulter offered a nod of thanks. Toma simply blinked. Later, after May fell asleep again, Eliza leaned toward Coulter. "He doesn't talk. He listens. And he's helping us. He is now." Eliza looked at the stars blinking through clouds. "Why?" Coulter shrugged. "Could ask the same about me." Toma stayed near them for the next 2 days, always ahead or behind, sometimes gone for hours before reappearing with fresh meat or water from half-frozen springs. He never slept near the fire, never took more than he needed, but he watched. And when May nearly slipped down a frozen embankment, it was Toma who caught her, lifting her with one arm like a feather and setting her upright. She stared at him, wide-eyed. He gave her a single carved bead from his pouch, pressed gently into her palm. From that moment, she trailed him when she could, imitating his quiet steps. Eliza's strength began to wane. Her feet bled inside cracked boots, and her cough deepened. She tried to hide it, but Coulter noticed. One night, as she washed May's face with snowmelt, he offered his coat without a word. She hesitated, then took it. The moment felt heavier than it should have. Coulter felt the weight of it as he turned back to the fire. The world closed in on the 4th day. Toma found signs: horse dung, boot tracks too fresh. He gestured to Coulter. 5 men, armed, not far. They moved at night, traveling along hidden creek beds, keeping low, keeping quiet. May clung to Eliza, too tired to speak. They passed through thickets so tight the branches tore their clothes, crossed streams so cold they couldn't feel their feet afterward. Hunger became a constant, gnawing thing. Eliza staggered often. See, Coulter finally took May on his back. Then came the smoke. A soft plume curling above the trees, straight and steady. Not theirs. A fire made by someone else. Nearby and deliberate. They circled wide, moving slow. Toma signaled to stop. Through the trees they spotted a camp. 4 horses, 5 bedrolls, and one unmistakable face. Jeb Salter. Hat low, revolver at his side, laughing at something unseen. Coulter's jaw tightened. They were close. Too close. That night Toma whispered for the first time. "We split." Coulter shook his head. "She won't survive alone." Toma's eyes met his. "She won't survive if they catch her." Eliza listened from a few feet away. "We stay together." Coulter opened his mouth, but didn't argue. In the dark, Toma drew a rough map in the dirt. A cave, high in the mountains, hidden, used long ago by trappers. One way in, one way out. Defensible, if they could reach it. The next day was a blur of branches and stone and breathless climbs. Snow fell in thick curtains. The trees thinned as they gained elevation. The cold became cruel, biting deep into their bones. Coulter carried May nearly the whole way. Toma doubled back often, watching for signs. Eliza stumbled again and again, catching herself on jagged rocks. Finally, as twilight turned the sky the color of iron, they reached the cave, a hollow carved into the side of a cliff, obscured by overgrowth and ice. Inside, dry ground, shelter, safe for the moment. Coulter built a fire while Eliza collapsed with May in her lap. Toma vanished, returning with dry moss and wild tubers. They ate, barely speaking. After the meal, Coulter stepped outside, watching the horizon. He didn't hear Eliza approach. "Thank you," she said, voice rough. He didn't answer at first. "You didn't have to come this far." He looked at her. Her eyes were sunken, tired, but still lit with something fierce. "I couldn't let you fall to men like him," he said. "I've done that before. Stood by when someone needed saving. Swore I wouldn't do it again." She exhaled, long and slow. "Then you're not who you think you are?" He looked away. "Maybe I'm trying not to be." Inside the cave, May had fallen asleep curled against Toma's cloak. The scout sat beside her, cross-legged, eyes half closed, breathing calm. A silent guardian. Coulter and Eliza sat at the mouth of the cave, firelight flickering over their faces. Snow fell beyond, blanketing the world, softening its sharp edges. She leaned her head back against the stone. "What happens now?" "We wait. Let the trail cool, then push north. And if they find us?" Coulter's voice was quiet. "Then I make sure they don't take you." She closed her eyes. Somewhere in the trees below, a wolf howled. The cold crept in as the fire burned low, but they didn't move. In the stillness, there was something unspoken between them. Not quite trust, not yet love, but something sturdy enough to carry them through the dark. Morning would come, and with it, danger. But for the first time since they ran, Eliza slept without fear. And Coulter kept his rifle close, eyes open, heart stirring like embers that refused to die. The storm that descended on the mountains came without warning. Snow fell sideways, whipped by gusts that howled through the narrow mouth of the cave. Coulter stood just beyond the entrance, wrapped in his coat, his rifle tucked against his side. The sky had turned an ugly grey, low and roiling, promising worse by nightfall. Behind him, Eliza stirred the coals of the morning fire, her hands shaking slightly though she tried to hide it. May still slept, her breath visible in the frigid air, curled under a blanket that barely reached her toes. Toma had not returned. He'd gone before first light, a silent motion into the woods with his bow across his back and a blade at his hip. He was always quiet, but this time something had passed between him and Coulter before he left, a subtle shift in posture, the way his eyes lingered. A warning unspoken. They were close. Coulter could feel it too. The forest had gone still. Even the birds had taken shelter. Eliza wrapped another layer around May and joined Coulter at the mouth of the cave. Her cheeks were raw from the cold, her eyes dark from sleeplessness. "He's not coming back, is he?" she asked. "He'll be back," Coulter replied, "but not alone." He didn't say more. She didn't press. They waited. Hours passed. The snow began to lighten, then stopped entirely. The world was silent, too silent. Then Coulter heard it, soft crunching, deliberate, measured. He raised his rifle, motioning for Eliza to retreat deeper into the cave. May woke, stirred by the movement, her eyes wide with confusion. "Stay quiet, sweet pea," Eliza whispered, pressing her lips to the girl's forehead. Then the voice came, slow and familiar. "Coulter Briggs. I know you're up there. Jeb Salter." Coulter stepped forward, careful not to expose his silhouette in the light. "You're a long way from town, Salter." Salter laughed, the sound jagged, humorless. You left me with questions. Thought I'd come get my answers. You always bring 4 men for that? We brought 5, actually, but 1 fell off his horse. Slippery trails this time of year. Coulter could just make out shapes moving below, men on foot, rifles ready, creeping through the snow. She's not going back with you, Coulter said. Salter sighed. This isn't your fight, Briggs. We don't want you. Just the woman. I want her, came another voice, thinner, meaner. One of the bounty hunters, itching for blood. And that kid's a bonus. Coulter's stomach turned cold. He stepped back inside the cave. Eliza stood, rifle in hand. Her face was pale but steady. I heard, she said. He nodded. They'll come from both sides. You and May stay to the rear. Watch that narrow exit. If it goes bad, run. Follow the stream down the slope and keep running. What about you? I ain't planning to die today. Neither of them said it, but both knew death didn't wait for plans. Toma returned before the first shot. He appeared like smoke, slipping into the cave behind them, silent as ever, blood on his sleeve, 1 arrow missing from his quiver. He held up 2 fingers, 2 down, 3 remained. Coulter nodded, his breath tightening. Then chaos. A rifle cracked. Wood exploded above Coulter's head. He dove sideways, returned fire, and dropped one of the bounty hunters where he stood. The man twisted and fell face first into the snow. Toma moved like lightning. No sound, just motion. An arrow flew from the cave's edge, catching another man in the thigh. He screamed, staggered, tried to crawl away. Another arrow silenced him, but Salter was still standing. He fired blindly into the cave, the bullet slamming into stone and ricocheting inches from May's head. She screamed, Eliza pulling her down, covering her with her body. Coulter shouted over the noise. We can't hold. M! Toma grunted, pulling his knife. He gestured for Coulter to move, south side, cover the flank. Coulter obeyed. Outside, Salter had taken cover behind a fallen pine, firing in calculated bursts. He wasn't reckless. He was patient, dangerous. Coulter ducked behind a rock outcrop, reloaded, and caught movement to his right. 1 more man, creeping through the snow. He fired. The man dropped. Only Salter remained. Then, a scream. Coulter turned, heart lurching. Toma was down. An iron shot had pierced his side. He knelt in the snow, blood blooming across his coat. But he still moved, still fought. He drove his blade into the snow as another shot rang out and missed. Coulter sprinted from cover, heart hammering, feet slipping. He came up behind Salter fast. The man turned too late. Coulter tackled him, both men rolling, fists swinging. The rifle dropped. Snow sprayed around them. Salter was stronger than he looked, meaner than he sounded. He clawed at Coulter's eyes, spit blood in his face, went for the knife on his belt. Coulter grabbed a rock, struck hard. Once. Twice. Salter's body jerked, then stilled. Coulter staggered to his feet, chest heaving, blood on his hands, the world spinning. Silence returned. Back in the cave, Eliza cradled May, shielding her eyes. Toma sat slumped against the wall, his breath shallow. Eliza rushed to his side as Coulter stumbled in. He needs help, she said. Coulter knelt. We can't stay. Toma opened one eye. Go, he rasped. I'm not leaving you. But Toma shook his head. You have to. Coulter's jaw clenched. Toma reached into his pouch, pulled out a smooth stone, etched with lines. He pressed it into May's hand, then looked at Coulter. Honor it. Coulter nodded. His throat burned, but no words came. They wrapped Toma's wounds as best they could. Eliza took what little food remained. May refused to let go of the stone. Her hands were shaking. At dawn, they left the cave. Toma watched them go. his face unreadable. They moved through the trees, silent, cold, bleeding, but alive. The land opened as they descended. Less snow, more green, signs of life. A faint deer trail turned into a narrow footpath, and then beyond the trees, the shimmer of a river. A border. Canada. They stopped at the edge of the water. Eliza turned. "We made it?" Coulter didn't respond. "Come with us," she said. Her voice was soft but pleading. "You don't have to go back." He looked at her, then at May. The girl was tired, shivering, but smiled when their eyes met. Eliza stepped closer. "We need you." Coulter swallowed hard. "That's just it. You won't if I stay." She frowned. "I've done things," he said. "Let things happen. Things I ain't proud of. But I can still do one thing right. The law will come. I'll tell 'em what really happened. Say you never came this way." Eliza shook her head. "They won't believe you. Maybe not. But they'll stop looking for you." Her eyes filled. "You'll hang for it." He shrugged. "Might be worth it." She took his hand, pressed it to her heart. "Please." Coulter stepped back. "You belong where the hurt ends, Eliza, not where it started." She wanted to argue. She didn't. She nodded. They crossed the river slowly, the cold water nearly pulling them under. Coulter watched until the last ripple stilled, until the trees swallowed them. He stood there for a long time. When he finally turned back, snow had begun to fall again. He walked slow. No destination, just motion. By the time he reached the edge of the forest, he heard horses, voices, deputies. He didn't raise his hands, didn't flinch, just stood. A badge flashed, a rifle lifted. "You Coulter Briggs?" "I am. We're here for the Kane woman." "You're too late," he said. One of the men stepped forward. "You help her run?" Coulter met his eyes. "She never passed this way." The deputy hesitated. "You sure about that?" "I am." They stared at him, waiting for a crack in his voice, a shift in his stance. Fuzz. There was none. Coulter stood as the snow fell, coat torn, hands empty. The wind howled through the trees behind him, and somewhere, far to the north, a little girl clutched a stone in her fist and a memory in her heart. In a land ruled by law and lead, one man chose love over justice. If this story moved you, consider liking the video, leaving your thoughts in the comments, and subscribing for more powerful tales of survival, sacrifice, and the enduring strength of the human spirit.